you've killed quite a few big deer, and we named this episode "Lessons Learned" because we thought we'd like tell a story about them, some of the things you learned whenever you killed that deer, and you killed one out of state in Missouri. I'm going to pop it up here on the screen. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, here's the deer. What did that thing end up scoring, Josh?
That one was like right under 187 gross.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that was the very first day I ever hunted Missouri, ever.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's a giant. Can you tell us a story about that?
Yeah. So I had a group of 4 guys. 2 were going to go down and bow hunt the rut, and then 2 of us were going to go down and try the rifle season for the first time. This was 2010 was the year. I'll even throw out the location for anybody that wants a little bit of adventure in their life. It was right around Kirksville, so kind of right, dead center in that northeast corner of Missouri. I was hunting on Indian Hills Conservation. It's a big piece of public land, and if anybody follows the Drury's, Terry Drury's farm is actually just to the southwest of that, within a couple miles. So I did.
Oh, you're hunting on his line then, right?
Well, no,
no, I'm just kidding.
Based from his farm, but I'm just giving you reference for kind of why I was in that area. Just
gotcha.
Bigger piece of public land. You got people like Terry Drury in the area. Obviously, they're there for a reason. There's big deer. They're trying to manage deer, so there's not only his farm, but there's other farms that are piggybacking off of that. It's all the things that I mentioned before. And then we went down there, put boots on the ground. I think I went 2 different weekends, kind of scouted that whole public chunk. Look, we found a couple locations that we thought were really good. And then the 2 guys that went with archery equipment told us that it was just chaotic. There was people from Georgia, people from Indiana, Wisconsin, like all these different places, Iowa. Just a ton of people hunting, and they had some of their hunts interrupted just because there was, it's a lot of CRP and skinny tracts of timber. So I pulled out maps again and started looking at things. They did observe some bigger bucks running around the CRP grass. And one of the guys told me that one of these bucks went into a property to the north. And I looked on a map, and it had a really good creek going through that property, and it looked really, really juicy on the topo. So I ended up calling this landowner. I figured out with plot maps who he was. I contacted him. He was from Iowa. And I asked him about, the potential of hunting his property. And he had mentioned that him and his son were actually coming down to hunt opening weekend of rifle season. So I offered to just buy his tag and his son's tag. They're $225 out of state, OTC, over the counter. I don't know if that's what they are now. I haven't been back in years, but he agreed to that. So, for $450, I got onto this 260-acre chunk to the north of the public that I had previously scouted. And I knew from a buddy of mine that this big deer was traveling north. Not this deer that I shot, but another, 145, 150-inch 10-pointer. Kind of was retreating in the mornings into that property, according to my buddy. So I busted out the maps, and some of the discussion. Definitely check out the Beast, a hunting beast online, for discussions on, kind of how to use topography. And if people are kind of new to hunting hills, or they want to start to explore the hills, a really good book to get you started with the terminology and kind of understanding what you're looking for on topography is called Mapping Trophy Whitetails. And then of course there's Dan's old DVDs that talk about hill country and some of his earlier stuff too. That'll help you kind of put together what you're looking for as far as buck bedding, and then how bucks use the topography to travel. So I picked out my stand location just based on topography, that creek. There was a inside corner that came together, and like there's a lot of topo features that all came together. So I actually went in there blind and hung a climber the morning of, just based on topography. And I went in there and hung a climber blind. the morning of, or maybe it was I kind of had a little bit of an idea. Like I kind of walked in there and kind of saw what I was looking for and then backed out because I didn't want to push down right down into where I was going to hunt. But I kind of went in there the day before and just kind of got to where I thought I was going to go. Took a look at things and I saw that there was like an old logging road that I knew was going to get me right to this big drainage ditch that was coming up with the inside corner and then an outside oxbow of a river. So I knew there was a lot of topography features there that were going to push a lot of deer past me, especially deer that were getting pushed off the public. So I hung the climber in there. I saw a really big buck in the morning come through chasing a doe. They had antler point restrictions there, so it was 4 per side, and this was 100. I'm going to say it was 130-inch 6-pointer. It had big brows, big G2 beams, and that was it. So I couldn't shoot him. Otherwise, I would have shot him. He was that big. And then, I just saw a lot of immature deer. I think my 10-pointer got banged before he got to me. I ended up seeing him at the neighboring landowner when I went to talk to them to go and retrieve this buck. But my buddy shot a nice 11-pointer on the public. And then around, he was trying to convince me to leave this private to come over by where he was because he'd seen like 7 or 8 or 9, 10 bucks. I forget what it was, but he was having an awesome sit and he shot like a 11-pointer, like a 17-inch spread 11, really respectable buck for public land. And I told him, no, I felt pretty good about where I was. I was going to stick it out. And at 2:00, this monster came rolling through. And at first, it's hard to tell in that picture, but he's got a really tight curl. So I just saw the side view and I thought he was like 145-inch 8-pointer. And I shot him at about 150 yards and I flopped him and got excited, called my buddy, said I had a buck down. And then I happened to look up over on, it was 150 yards across. He popped back up and crap my, because then I realized it was way, way bigger than 145 incher. I knew at that point it was at least 165. And I took another shot at him and then he started heading to the south to the public. But he was bleeding out. He was dying on the other side of the ridge. And after I talked to my buddy, I got down, shimmied down, took off some of my heavier stuff, put my orange back on, and started working my way towards him and finished him off on the backside of this ridge. And then the party really began once I saw him. But,
did he come through from pressure or did he come through cruising?
I think he was natural, just chasing a doe along that creek. It wasn't even, that's the crazy thing once you get into, some areas in Iowa, Missouri, Manitoba I've been to, Illinois, like some of these places, these deer are just naturally, even during the gun season, which you don't typically see a lot here in Wisconsin. Like they're just naturally kind of rutting and doing.
People don't realize how different it is state to state from deer activity.
Yeah. So, the key takeaways from that hunt were just understanding the pressure, number one. Number two is that location, like I knew for a fact based on observation and, size of the property and who was in the neighborhood that there was at least a chance of big deer. And we saw huge bucks running around down there when we were driving around scouting and even on our way down there, you'd see a couple trophy class bucks, in fields or running across the field. Like we were really excited to hunt that area. And then, putting it all together, using my buddy's information, using the maps, kind of understanding, what would be a really good funnel, either pressure or just naturally.